Reports 10. I'll read it into the record when Haven's ready. Then you can come up and look at it. Okay, it's... Okay, it regards instruction 20, and it has a quote mark to the language in instruction 20, and I think it can be found in the second paragraph. Do you have copies of the instruction? You can share an extra copy I have if you want.
Yes, Your Honor. Do you have it?
Yeah.
You don't have a copy? I have one of the previous.
All right, here.
I think that changed.
Are you going to share? Oh, Mr. Bowles has it. Okay, so it says, instruction 20, quote, or constitutes an intervening cause that breaks the foreseeable chain of events, end of quotation marks. Clarification on if, quote, intervening cause, unquote, could mean things that could have been changed to prevent it. Here, you can read this.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Judge, do you have any thoughts about how to respond?
I'm just going to tell him to.
Just
We
keep
can't.
doing it.
We can't help him.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just gonna tell him to.
Thank you, Your Honor. Continue to read.
Alrighty. Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay,
Judge.
thanks.
Oh, that's good.
All right, we're in recess. Thank you. All right, you may be seated. All right. Just a minute. All right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, through the foreperson, have you reached a verdict?
Yes.
All right, let me see the verdict form.
She needs a hearing.
All right, so let me repeat. I said, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, through the foreperson, have you reached a verdict?
Yes.
All right, and do you wish to read the verdicts?
Sure.
Okay. I would start with count one. Okay. You heard both of them. Will the defendant please stand?
We find the defendant, Hannah Gutierrez, guilty of involuntary manslaughter as charged in count 1. We find the defendant, Hannah Gutierrez, not guilty of tampering with evidence as charged in count 2.
All right, thank you. You may be seated. Let me get those forms, retrieve those forms from you. I'm going to do what's called polling the jury. What I need to put on the record is that this is your individual verdict, okay? So I'm going to start with the gentleman in the back. Is this your verdict?
Yes.
Ma'am, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Sir, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Sir, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Sir, is this your verdict?
Yes, Your Honor.
Sir, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Sir, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Ma'am, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Ma'am, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Ma'am, is this your verdict? Ma'am, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Ma'am, is this your verdict? Okay, thank you. All right, so you've completed your service. Thank you so much for being here. It was a long trial. People may want to talk to you. This has been pretty much a lot of publicity, and you don't have to. Okay, so you can just simply say, I do not wish to talk, and move on. And if anybody bothers you, we really try to protect your privacy. If anybody bothers you, simply call my division, and we'll figure out what to do. But you also may talk. Okay, so it's entirely up to you. Okay. All right. So you can escort them out.
Yes, sure.
All right. Thank you.
All rise.
George, just a minute. Just Ryan. You should probably stay here, but I wanted him to walk them all out. All right, you may be seated. All right, is there anything that the state's requesting based upon the verdict?
We would request that Ms. Gutierrez be taken into custody.
Mr. Bowles?
Your Honor, we would request under, pull up the rule, Your Honor. Your Honor, Rule 5402, release pending sentencing. In this court's discretion, under the same conditions or other conditions as this court would deem necessary. Ms. Gutierrez has been on conditions She has not violated those conditions. She has voluntarily appeared at all court proceedings. Your Honor, I would request this court to continue conditions or whatever conditions this court would have on release.
All right, thank you. I'm going to remand you, and the reason why I'm going to remand you is you are now convicted. And so, and this is a death. It's a criminal negligence, but it's still a death. And so, deputies, you're going to take her into custody, and we will set a sentencing date. What is the best, what do you want to look like on that? And we need an order of remand, do we? Haven? Okay. Counsel?
In terms of the sentencing date?
Yes.
At the court's convenience, will be available. There are 2 weeks in May that I'm unavailable. Those are the last 2 weeks of May.
All right. Mr. Bowles?
Your Honor, as soon as this court has time, we will be available.
All right, so do you have any conflict like that? She said May. Do you have any conflict?
I don't know for sure, Your Honor, that I could. I do have other trials, but I think mid-May.
Well, I can do it sooner.
Okay.
I just wondered if you had any conflicts along the way.
Doesn't look like mid-May, Your Honor. I do. I don't think I have any conflicts.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not understanding. Do you have, okay, we're in March. Do you have time before May?
We have time in April.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. Okay. All right. Anything else before the court?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. We're in recess. Deputy.
Involuntary manslaughter and also not guilty for the tampering with evidence charge?
I think it was spot on. I think I would have found her guilty. All of the evidence was there. I thought the tampering charge, again, I've said this time and time again, I hate to use the word bogus, but I don't know whatever common term to use. There was no way that they could prove that there was cocaine in that packet. I would have been objecting all over the place to, all of the evidence, the question and testimony that was put forth with respect to that. But again, the only thing that I believe Hannah Gutierrez Reed had to do was check those bullets, take the time and check those bullets. It wouldn't have taken her 55 seconds. It wouldn't have taken her 2 minutes, but a life could have been saved that day. And I think that's what it comes down to, those couple of minutes right before she passed off the gun. Everything else that happened is just, it's just extra ancillary. It's the fact that she should have taken the time to check. She wasn't under any pressure at that moment. She did not take the time. It's sad. It's unfortunate. It's gutting, but this is what it is. I also think she was in over her head. I don't think she should have had this position. And that goes to show, that's evidenced by how irresponsible, how sloppy she was on set, how disorganized she was on set.
Ron Zambrano, I want to get your opinion, your reaction to this verdict of guilt. What do you think? Ron, I think we're having
on the last point that my colleague said about, and I agree with her that I don't believe Gutierrez Reed should have had this job. I think it was a job that she got because of who her dad was. And that is not a good thing for Alec Baldwin, because that is going to be part of the thing. Should have this young lady, she's a very young lady, should have this responsibility to have people's lives in her hands, especially, how she was conducting herself. And that's, I hate to bring it back to Alec Baldwin, but this is kind of a win for him, but, it depends what the prosecution is going to do with regards to how they're going to handle this. But I also agree with my colleague in the sense that, there's a lot of evidence that Gutierrez Reed was but consuming drugs and alcohol when she should have been a serious person. It reminds me of that scene in Succession where the father was telling the kids, like, you're not serious people. And I don't think she acted like a serious person that was required of her for the magnitude of what she was doing.
Right, and that question of whether she was qualified for the job will ultimately be something that those in production will have to answer. And those in production, of course, in this case, would be Alec Baldwin, who, of course, faces his own involuntary manslaughter charge and potentially his own trial coming up. And I think that's going to be an issue that's going to be brought by the prosecutor, the same prosecutor who was involved in this case, the prosecutor Morrissey there. But we're going to now take you back a few minutes ago to when this verdict of guilt was read, in case you missed it. So let's take a look at a clip of this verdict being read by the jury. Let's take a look.
We find the defendant, Hannah Gutierrez, guilty of involuntary manslaughter as charged in count 1. We find the defendant, Hannah Gutierrez, not guilty of tampering with evidence as charged in count 2.
There you go. Swift justice, a verdict of guilt against Hannah Gutierrez Reed, read by the foreperson of the jury. Now, Afi, you see that dramatic moment of when Hannah Gutierrez Reed is taken into custody and the defense team there by her side. Do you think that there's going to be an appeal coming from the defense?
Absolutely. I think that's something that you automatically prepare for. And I think that the defense was also right for asking for her to be allowed to be out pending sentencing. I would ask pending appeal. I think that's just kind of par for the course. It's pretty normal.
No, absolutely. And Ron, I want to put yourself in the shoes of the defense there. What are your next moves? You're filing a notice of appeal. You're looking at the record. You're trying to find the points that are going to be strongest on appeal. But in terms of the incarceration, just like Afi just mentioned, are you filing a motion to try to get her released while there is a appeal pending? What's your next move?
You execute every move possible to try to get her out of prison, try to get the verdict reversed. You do everything possible to try to keep helping your client. I mean, that's our job as attorneys and advocates. But those are transactional things. The bigger picture is you have to get, once you step away from this very long, arduous journey, you have to look at the evidence that was presented at trial, not what you'd like to put at trial, how to look, but really look at the record, go back and read everything and see how it is you could best do an appeal, and that takes a lot of work.
Absolutely. And Afi, do you think that Alec Baldwin's defense team are looking at this verdict right now, considering their options and the strategy they're going to employ for Alec Baldwin? They're going to be looking at this as they formulate their playbook.
Yeah, and it's good if this is the same prosecutor that's going to be prosecuting Alec Baldwin. I'm always, I always pull transcripts. They've got video because, show me my opponent, right? Let me know what your tactics are. I want to observe or, read your strengths and weaknesses. But I do think that this very, very quick verdict bodes well for Alec Baldwin and his team. I think that the jurors put the blame squarely at the feet of Hannah Gutierrez Reed. So I think that, I don't think that they're shivering in their boots. I think that this is good for them. Also, I think there was some video that I saw during the trial where I saw Alec Baldwin, and he was very much so in his zone. He was very much being an actor when he did the crossbody pull. It's not like he was playing around or taking anything lightly. It seems to me that he was handed a gun with a live round. So I think it bodes well for Alec and his team. Yeah,
and Ron, the prosecutor in her summation to the jury in this trial was quick to point out that in an involuntary manslaughter charge like this, based on negligence, criminal negligence, that there can be more than one cause of the death. So you're talking about causation here, and one or more individuals can be liable or here criminally culpable for the criminal negligence that would have led to Halyna Hutchins' death. this is going to be likely something that she's going to be pointing out to a jury if Alec Baldwin takes his case to trial, that even though Hannah Gutierrez Reed was found guilty in her trial, that you can still find Alec Baldwin guilty of involuntary manslaughter in his trial. Do you think that's going to be a strategy that the prosecution is going to be employing during the course of the prosecution of Alec Baldwin?
100%. I think they have to. I think they have to implement that theory that, listen, more than one, yes, Gutierrez Reed was found guilty, but Mr. Baldwin also has his own criminal conduct that he should be prosecuted for, on top of the idea that he and the production that he's in charge of should have known better than hiring her, and whatever other theory they're going to come up with. They're not just going to stick with one, because I think this particular verdict is something that really boosts Mr. Baldwin, because he could just say, listen, I never handled a gun. When I got the gun, I was relying on someone whose profession it was to make sure it was safe. And that's a really good argument. It's not complicated. And one thing you want as someone who's trying cases is to give points to the jury that aren't complicated and there are not a lot of questions in their mind.
Absolutely. And I just want to remind everyone out there about what this case was about. It was about Halyna Hutchins, who tragically lost her life on that set, doing something likely she loved, right? She was involved in movies, and so tragically, her life ends when she is behind the camera as she is filming this movie. And our thoughts are completely with her family at this time. Perhaps this provides at least some portion of closure. Of course, the legal issues, the legal cases, including with Alec Baldwin, continue on after this case. But Russ Armour, Hannah Gutierrez, was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter, found not guilty of tampering with evidence. And that does it for me here with the verdict, breaking it live to you viewers out there. But we want you to stick with Law and Crime for our regularly scheduled programming. I want to thank Afi Patterson and also Ron Zambrano for joining me as we broke this verdict to you. Have a good night.